To talk about the life and times of the legendary Mr. Ratan Tata, I'm joined live and exclusive on India Today at this time by Senior Minister in the Modi Cabinet, Union Commerce and Industry Minister, Minister Piyush Goyal joins us. Piyush ji, at a time when so many people across the country are in mourning, there's been an outpouring of grief, not just from government, from industry, but even from common people who seem to have been touched by the life and times of Ratan Tata. How do you, as Commerce and Industry Minister, it's literally your job to meet all top industrialists, interact with them in different capacities. How do you remember the lifetimes and the body of work and the kind of work that he developed at Tata Sons of Mr. Ratan Tata?
Rahul, the country today has lost a titan, a legend whose memory can never fade away. He will live on in our lives. His work will take the India story across the world for years and decades to come. Very simple person, very, very polite, kind, soft-spoken and loving by nature. Somebody who earned the trust of not only the employees of Tata Group, not only the governments in India, across the world, but I think of 140 crore Indians. The trust that the Tata Group acquired under his leadership is profound. And throughout his career, since he joined the Tata Group in 1961, until his last breath, he lived and breathed the Bharat story. He epitomizes everything that Bharat is proud of. A proud son of the soil, somebody who believed in Atmanirbharta, the very concept of having an Indian car developed in India, developed and designed and produced in India with Indian components, speaks volumes about his passion for the country. Yet at the same time, he made Tata a global conglomerate, took the India brand, the India story across the world in more countries than anybody else has ever forayed. And today, Bharat and Tata are synonymous.
So much of Mr. Ratan Tata's life was also about values, about beliefs, about trust, and building a group which was very value and trust oriented in the kind of hyper competitive, grow at all cost kind of environment that we live in. How would you compare your interactions with Mr. Tata with everyone else who'd come and meet you, interact with government in different capacities?
Well, if I recall my interactions when I used to go to Bombay House to meet him, it was always full of enthusiasm for the India story. He always focused on the future, would share his vision, would share his ideas, was willing to take challenges. I remember soon after he became chairman of Tata Sons way back in 90, he was confronted with a lot of difficulties. There were titans heading each of the Tata Group companies. But with his soft-spoken approach, with his positivity, the way he endeared himself to everybody, the way he earned the love and affection of the entire Tata Group, I think he came across always passionate for the country and desirous of seeing India as a developed nation, seeing the prosperity of every Indian. I still remember when he came home to meet me in Delhi. We spent about an hour. He never asked for anything of the government. He was only passionate about what he could do for the country. And soon after we met, that was I think sometime in 2016 or so, at my home in Delhi, I approached him around mid-17 to discuss with him about the Wi-Fi plans that the Indian Railways was implementing. I remember we had taken Wi-Fi to about 1,000 stations, and then we ran out of support and funding. At that point of time, we were looking for almost 450 odd crores to fund the Wi-Fi installation in every station across the country. I think there were about 6,500 stations which we wanted to also provide Wi-Fi, given that it was a very successful experiment, and we wanted that in every small station across the country, Wi-Fi we made available so that children could also take the benefit of that, passengers could take the benefit of that. And spontaneously, without hesitating for a moment, he said, "You don't have to worry, Mr. Goyal. Tata Sons will provide the funds." And he provided the entire funding to take Wi-Fi to the length and breadth of the country. And after that, I would see children studying at night at the stations under the Wi-Fi which was funded by the Tata Sons. Every moment spent with him is a fond memory. I remember once he came home in Mumbai to have breakfast with the family. That was probably a couple of years ago. And we had a simple idli, dosa, vada sambar served for breakfast. He was so profuse in his happiness, in his thanks. I mean, he just went raving about a simple breakfast. And just before he was leaving, he actually asked my wife, "Would you like to have a picture with me?" And obviously everybody wanted a picture with him. But it was such a cherished moment, I can't tell you. Sorry.
I seek your indulgence and your permission, if you permit, for us to share that photo, such a lovely, touching photo of you, Seemaji, with Mr. Ratan Tata. So if I have your permission, I'll just show that to our viewers. If our camera person can just zoom in for a moment and show this photograph of the one that Minister Goyal is referring to. Because one thing is for Mr. Tata to believe in the Bharat story and the Make in India story. The other thing which was remarkable about him was about how he wanted to take the India story internationally. The purchase of Jaguar, Land Rover, all these iconic international brands, and running them to international standards, but with a very Indian orientation. So talk us through how he also tried to take the India story and leave a global stamp.
Rahul, I remember there was a point of time that Chorus, Tata, Jaguar, Land Rover, all these companies were going through severe stress. And every analyst on the street would say that Tatas will be run down by these acquisitions. But Mr. Ratan Tata had the courage of conviction that he had made a good bet that in the long run, the India story would be incomplete without an international footprint. And I think he withstood his ground. He turned them around. He always took the best of executives. Mr. Chandrasekaran, whom he appointed as the chairman of TCS earlier, and then to look after the entire Tata Group since 2017, has done the Tata Group proud by all of these companies turning around, coming of age. I remember a small story. I was in the US about 3 or 4 years ago, visiting a Tata facility jointly with Cornell, which they had set up for developing the startup and innovation ecosystem. And during the presentation, they showed that the New York Marathon was sponsored by TCS. And I spontaneously asked, why should TCS be sponsoring the the New York Marathon? They said, no, but we also sponsor the India Marathon. But at the same time, today, India is sponsoring the New York Marathon, sends out a message to the world. And I realized that it was a very, very profound decision, a very telling decision, which took the India story to the whole world. And today, a company like TCS, which was seeded under the stewardship of Ratan Tata ji, is the pride of India across the world. And the Tata brand helps people recognize the capabilities, the high trust and quality that is guaranteed when you buy an Indian product. And therefore I said Tata and Bharat, in a way, have become synonymous in the world's eyes.
Minister, you're an alumni of the Harvard Business School, and one of the iconic buildings there is the Tata Hall. And that again speaks to Mr. Ratan Tata's desire of ensuring that India is not just seen as a net taker but a net giver as well. And he was, of course, an alumni of the advanced management program, and he says that it played a big role in shaping his management values and principles. But this desire of leaving an Indian imprint, whether it is in the purchase of marquee international companies or even something as simple as making a big donation, ensuring that there is a massive hall at the premises of the Harvard Business School in the name of an Indian firm. And this is long before it became fashionable to do so.
Rahul, Mr. Tata would be one of the largest donor to the education system in India. His donations, his philanthropy, his care and concern for improving the education across the length and breadth of India is legendary. But he also realized that ultimately the India story is an international story also. And Harvard Business School is a college, is an institution through which legends are going to graduate, through which some of the world's top business tycoons will be getting their education. I think it was very, very far-sighted of him, very thoughtful of him to donate to the Harvard endowment, and it was very gracious of Harvard Business School at that time led by Dr. Nitin Noria, who also served on the Tata Sons board for many years, to have a hall named after Mr. Tata. And I think that will remain as a living memory for the world and for every graduate of Harvard Business School, to remind them of the great work that Mr. Tata did, whether in business or whether in philanthropy. And it will encourage others to continue to contribute to education in our own country and also take the India story international.
So finally, you're not just a minister and a BJP leader, you're also somebody who studies the India corporate story very closely. In the absence of this iconic legend, how do you see the issue of business continuity, succession, and the future of the Tata Group without the presence of the towering Mr. Ratan Tata?
Great leaders leave behind great legacies, and I am sure and very, very confident that Mr. Tata will leave behind a corporation, a conglomerate, an international company which will continue to flourish, continue to prosper, continue to grow with the growing India story. The next few decades are India's. We will, in the Amrit Kal, become a developed nation. Viksit Bharat 2047 is the collective commitment, is a promise that 140 crore Indians have made to themselves. And this commitment will be a part of the Tata Group commitment also. I have absolutely no doubt it is going to continue to be India's jewel, and Ratan Tata ji's legacy will live for years, decades, if not centuries, as the Tata Group flourishes and grows from strength to strength.
For your candid insights and also bearing your heart and being so emotional in this remembrance, Minister Piyush Goyal, thank you so much. Deeply appreciate your time and for you to join us here. Thank you, sir.